Hey everyone, this is Jay and Christa with Say I Do Forever, and it is 1 week before Christmas, and this is a crazy time to do a video like this. I know with the holiday season and all of that kind of stuff, who has time for that? But we feel like this video is very important, and we are coming up to the anniversary of one of the anniversaries of Jay's health journey. It was 3 days before Christmas when we had some results. We'll tell you about that in a minute. So we thought, what a perfect time to do it is right at the anniversary time when we're thinking about it anyway, and we're with family and we're thinking about all these things. We are doing this video actually because we were asked to do this video. I think it was Naomi. I think you had asked us if we could do a video on Jay's health journey and maybe help some people out there that might be going through some of the same symptoms. Maybe something will trigger what you're going through, or maybe something you're walking through, it'll help you. So that's why we're doing a health video a week before Christmas.
On a marriage channel.
On a marriage channel. So we'll be right back. Okay, I'm gonna interview my wonderful little husband. We'll do it like interview style. I'll ask him some questions. But before that, we just got back from doing some holiday shopping and being out there, and Jay actually asked me on a date. He asked me to go to lunch with him. Or no, breakfast. A late breakfast. So we went to breakfast, and we saw the cutest, well, Jay saw him first. The cutest little couple. It was like a mirror of what we were 36 years ago.
Yeah, it was funny because we were there for a little bit, and then they came in and sat down across kind of at an angle from us. And I could only see him, but I could see his girlfriend staring at him, but I couldn't see the expression on her face till after we left. But I could see how excited he was to tell her all of this information. And
he was talking nonstop.
Oh yeah, he didn't even come up for a breath. But she was so just focused on what he was saying.
Yeah.
And
they were probably in their early 20s or maybe late teens.
Late teens, like
18.
Like maybe high school. Maybe high school.
You think so?
Oh yeah. Yeah. So anyway, he was just constantly telling her all this information. And it was just goofy stuff. You know, like when you're in high school, you just talk to your boyfriend, girlfriend, goofy stuff. But she was so interested. She just kept asking him more questions. And
she was hanging on every word.
Yeah. And then so when we left and we went outside, we both looked over and we saw her, and she had that puppy dog look at him. And she was so focused on hanging on every word he was saying. It was cute.
Yeah. And they were slightly behind me, and Jay goes, "Don't look like obvious, but look off to your right." It's like looking in at us 36
yeah, it was like
years
mirrored,
ago.
You know, it's like 36 years ago now. Fast forward to where we're at now.
Yeah, where we were just like all like goofy and.
Yeah. What did you say when we were sitting there? You said something funny about where we're at now, and you said something like something that we wouldn't say when we were their age.
Oh,
it
was funny because here they are hanging on every word, and they're just focused on each other. And Jay and I were trying to text some friends of ours about a potluck and what they're going to bring, and we were talking about like
what was
boring stuff, and I said, "Oh yeah, this is our kind of date now. This is your future people."
Yeah. Yeah, we go from how they were like when we went to Pizza Hut for our first date 36 years ago to potluck.
Planning all the logistics of a potluck.
That's what it was. It was potluck. So anyway, back to this video.
Okay, so thank you for that little side thing, but we just thought that was so cute.
Yeah, it was funny.
It kind of brought back those memories and of our little early dates and everything, and that was really neat. But
it was good memories.
Today we're talking about the later part of our life that hasn't been as fun as that first part of our lives.
Yeah.
So
within a couple years.
Yeah, the last few years, Jay has been very, very sick, and luckily, actually, it's probably been about maybe four years that he's been really sick, and then we've been working on it the last couple. And here's the strange thing. I have been telling everybody, and I probably have said it on this video, that we've been on this gluten-free health journey for about 3 years. And I started to look up dates and try to figure out our timeline. And it's actually only 2 years ago, because it was Christmas 2020. And the year 2020 was where it got really, really hard. So it felt like more than 3 years, but it was only 2 years.
Well, to me, it's felt like it's been a lot longer than 3 years. It's felt like a lifetime, but anyway.
Yeah. So tell me some of the symptoms, like before you knew what was wrong with you.
Well, the funny part is, before I even came to realize what it was, that it was the gluten that was affecting my health, I ended up with pancreatitis. And I went to the hospital. I was there for a week, and that started the whole snowball downhill. But the doctor told me that I needed to quit popping Advil like Pez or candy. Mm-hmm. So I removed that, so that my pancreas has been fine to this point. Mm-hmm. But I still, later on, within the last couple years, I was losing weight, and we couldn't figure it out. I was losing weight. I was losing weight really fast. I was losing weight really fast, and we thought it possibly was cancer, because the history of cancer in both sides of my family are really, relevant.
And especially because your grandfather had the same thing happen to him. He started losing weight, and for years they kept trying to figure it out, and ended up to be cancer. And he actually ended up dying from it. So that was kind of in the back of our heads. But he was losing weight like crazy. Like just no matter how much he ate. And so he would go and sit down with a whole big old piece, thing of pizza, and just shove it down, trying to gain weight. And the more he ate, the more he lost.
I would go to Little Caesars and get a large pepperoni pizza, and I'd eat the entire thing myself.
Trying to gain weight.
Thinking that all that cheese and all the carbs from the pizza would gain me weight, and it wasn't. And and not only that, but by the time I got done eating it, I'd have real bad acid reflux. So, and we're going to talk a little bit about that here in a minute, but no matter what I tried, nothing of consuming a lot of carbs and different things with gluten was not working. Yeah. I was still losing weight rapidly.
And then you had sleeping problems on top of that.
Yep. Then I was diagnosed with sleep apnea, and they set me up with a machine. I went and did the sleep study, and they said you wake up 13 times every hour the whole time you're sleeping. And so that was devastating. It's like, why is that? I used to sleep good, and now I'm not getting any sleep. So then we got the CPAP machine. I couldn't handle that. It felt like you were being suffocated. So I gave that back. So
and then we thought maybe it was stress.
Yep.
Because we were making a huge decision whether to close the shop because of my health as well, because I had high blood pressure and these massive nosebleeds during bridal season.
Yep.
And so you were actually trying to build my studio. We were turning our garage. It was a little old broken down garage, and you turned it into a really nice studio. So at the same time, he's trying to do that. He's getting no sleep. Right. He's waking up from acid reflux or gasping for air.
Well, it would go up. If you lay down and if you have acid reflux, for people out there that know this, when you lay down and you have that acid reflux creeping up your throat, it basically chokes you, and then you panic, you sit up, you gasp for air, and you try to breathe, and you can't, and then it slowly backs off a little bit to where you can try to breathe, and it was horrible. And I had kept doing that, and it was terrible.
Yeah, it was to the point where then I wasn't sleeping because he would sit straight up and gasp for air like he was dying.
And it woke her up like startled, and that's not good for her health either, her heart,
Yeah. So we had
stress of that.
A lot of major stress going on at the time. No sleep. Of course, that's the year of COVID. And I didn't realize this. It's funny how, I don't know why in my head I was thinking this whole thing went on in 2019, and I separated it from COVID, and I separated it in my mind from me closing the shop. I closed the shop in March of 2021. And this was going on all through 2020, that he's trying to build the stuff. We're making, decisions to close the shop. Our son got COVID. It's just one thing after another.
And my mom had her heart attack.
That's not until 2021.
I thought that was that was in the beginning of 2021. Yeah. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. So that was an added stress later.
So that fall of 2021, you decide you're going to go get tested. So what are all, besides, you talked a little bit about the sleep test.
So after the sleep test, and I couldn't do the sleep machine and all that stuff. So I went and got a colonoscopy thinking, it could be cancer, may as well get checked. So that turned out flying colors, no problems there. While I was in there, knocked out, they scoped my stomach, and what they found is that the gluten was making not sores, but the doctor said like little white dots all over my stomach, and my stomach, the lining of my stomach was super inflamed, like bad. And so then that led him to ask me the question, well, what do you eat? And I ate nothing but garbage, so obviously that was easy to answer that question. And he's like, no. He says, you gotta, I was going to McDonald's, I kid you not, like almost every day for lunch, and getting a 1/4 pound with cheese, large fries, and medium Dr. Pepper. That was my go-to. That was my lunch. While I was out and about and busy, that's all I was doing. And I had done that for years. So he's like, you got to lay off that. You can't do that. You got to quit that. You got to quit this. You got to quit this. He goes, it's probably more than likely, I'm willing to bet you that it's gluten. So you remove all gluten. And I'm like, well, what's gluten? And so he's like, it's everything that you eat. It's in everything you eat. It's all that you eat. So you need to lay off of that. So he started listing them, all the breads, cereals even. I think Frosted Flakes. I loved Frosted Flakes. Can't eat those anymore. A lot of different styles of potato chips. Can't eat a lot of different chips that have gluten in them. If you look at the back of the chip bag, it lists if it says enriched flour, wheat flour, any flour, other than like rice flour is okay, almond flour is okay. There's a bunch of goofy flours too that they make. Those are okay. So, there's this laundry list of things that I can't eat now, but also being that more and more people are showing up allergic to gluten or celiac disease or whatever, there's more of the companies that are making more things with gluten-free. So thank God for, them transitioning a lot of foods over to gluten-free. Like we have spaghetti noodles now that are gluten-free. We have penne noodles that are gluten-free. My cousin back east, she sends us these things. Epicure. She's a salesperson for Epicure. She sends us all these like macaroni and cheese packets with powder that you can dump in the mac and cheese and make a really good, it's delicious mac and cheese. So at least, a lot of the things that I used to like to eat, I'm not missing out on because there's substitutes for that. They even, I used to eat Oreos like there's no tomorrow. And I had to give up those. Well, then suddenly now they have gluten-free Oreos. And so I've been putting those away, literally eating.
We still got to get them to eat vegetables.
That's not going to happen. Anyway.
But I think that there's
just a lot.
I think there was a tie between not only the gluten, but pancreatitis. They kept asking us if he drank a lot of alcohol, because that was their number one thing.
Yeah.
They kept asking him over and over and
And
over
I don't
again.
really drink. I mean, I used to have like a beer with pizza or a steak or whatever, but now you're very limited on beer because it's all made with wheat, barley, hops, all that stuff. They do sell Redbridge that's gluten-free. So, but nobody can get it.
But I think that year that you had pancreatitis, which was probably maybe 4 years before this whole gluten thing, you had maybe had 3 beers that whole year, just maybe at a barbecue or something. And
so the cause of the pancreatitis was not.
So they kept asking that, and then I actually went and did some research while you were in the hospital under morphine, and found out that a fatty diet can also do the pancreatitis.
Yeah, red meat. Any of the red meats.
Well, and all the fat, you know.
But the red meats, like.
And McDonald's.
Right, which is red meat.
Yeah.
I mean, they sear it before they give it to you, but it's still going out red meat.
Yeah.
So steak, roast, all of that stuff. So I had to back that way off too.
Yeah, but then we had cleared that, which he doesn't have a problem with that anymore.
Nope.
And then he ends up with the gluten. Let me ask you, what was going through your mind before all the tests, before you knew that it was gluten? Because here's the thing, I'm now looking at my journals and looking back and realizing he was in a panic I wasn't going to retire from the shop until my lease was up in July of 2021. We had made the decision, and he started the process, I think, in October of 2020 or even September. And he was in this panic to get this done. And I now look back and think, I think he thought, I'm dying and I've got to get this.
Well, I mean, you guys can, I mean, get this, that, you know, and I got it, that when you start to lose weight drastically.
Especially when it happened to your grandfather.
Yeah, it usually is cancer. Mm-hmm. It's usually cancer. So that's, I
had it in your mind.
I had it in my mind that that's what it was. And that just added that much more stress, because you start thinking that and you're like, uh-oh. And then you start to think, well, when you know people with cancer, they have days, weeks, or months, maybe years, but days, weeks, or months, or hours sometimes to live. So it just sped up the process, and I just hit it into high gear to get her sewing studio done, because if anything happened to me, she would need an income. So the best way for her to get an income is by doing alterations. So that's why I was just kicking it into high gear.
Yeah,
that's what was going through my mind.
And it's weird from the outside. We didn't know that that was all going on in his mind, because even in our little home group that meets in our home, they were all, Jay, you have time. Why are you out there when it's like 0 degrees and still trying to get this done? I have to get it done. I have to get it done. And we couldn't figure out why you were on such a mission to get that done.
Well, in the back of your mind, you think you're dying of cancer. You kick it into high gear. You hurry up and get everything done. So that way, if anything does happen in the immediate future, that it's done. She's taken care of. You know, it's all set so she can do her thing.
Yeah. So we did have a relief. Like, so he's going through all those tests in December of 2020. And we're trying to celebrate the holidays and all that. We don't know what it is. And 3 days before Christmas, as we waited for a couple weeks for all of these tests to come through, it comes as a relief and yet kind of a stress. We get the diagnosis that you possibly, most likely have celiac, that it, with all of their evidence, they think you've got celiac.
Celiac, right. The difference is, that I know now is I don't think I have full-blown celiac, because from family and friends that have celiacs, if they eat something that's not good for them, that has gluten, they get like ill, like really ill, deathly ill. Me, I don't know why my system is doing this, but if I eat something with gluten, I automatically lose weight. It is the most bizarre thing. It's not like I have
5 pounds in a day.
Yeah, it's not like I have that stereotypical celiacs label. I can eat, let's say I can go to Little Caesars, I can eat a large pizza. Well, I'll probably lose 5 pounds.
At least.
The next day
like
or
a large
two.
pizza now.
I'm just saying.
And I feel like it's getting worse because before I don't think you noticed it. I think you were you had so much inflammation that you never even knew.
Well, it felt like an upset stomach. You know, when you eat something that doesn't agree with your stomach, you know how your stomach kind of aches? That's what it felt like. Well, it's done that feeling for years.
Yeah, so
literally years. You thought, well, it's stress or whatever. I'll just drink some Pepto-Bismol and call it good. And it coats your stomach and away you go. And you just go on to eat more gluten.
Which we also found out that things like antacids actually are bad for your pancreas. Do you remember when we were doing the pancreas stuff, they said you need to quit taking like Tums and stuff like that.
Well, and Pepto.
And Pepto.
Yeah.
He couldn't take Pepto anymore.
Yeah.
Used to live on Pepto.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's probably one of the problems. But one other thing too is and this, I don't know if this is just me or if this is for everyone else out there, but when I cut out all the gluten, like here a little while back, I ceased to have any acid reflux. I have 0 acid reflux. So if that tells you anything about gluten,
mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, I mean, if you mysteriously don't have acid reflux anymore because you cut out gluten and you used to pop omeprazole like I did,
and I
used to have a prescription for a
wake up with that.
I used to pop omeprazole.
Mm-hmm.
It's a heavy duty antacid, and the doctor prescribed that to me because of my acid reflux. But what he didn't realize is this whole time I was probably allergic or had a gluten intolerance. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, that's something else to think about, everyone out there that struggles with acid reflux. Try cutting out the gluten and see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
so
it's
are there
worth
any others?
It's worth a shot.
Like, you had the acid reflux, you had the sleeping problems, the waking up, gasping for air. Possibly the pancreatitis had something to do with it. We're not quite sure. The losing the weight. And
it was just a bunch of different things.
Yeah. So, like we said, 3 days before Christmas, he got the diagnosis. Well, here's the thing for those of you asking. He's never had an official celiac test, like a diagnosis. And the reason is because the people who did the scope, all the doctors involved with that, the nurses, they said, this is typical. This is celiac, but you got to go talk to your doctor and everything. Well, because of the holidays and all that kind of stuff, it was about 3 weeks until you could go to the doctor. But because Jay, which shocked me, he was so like, well, if this is celiac, then I'm cutting out all gluten. And so by the time you got to the doctor 3 weeks later, she was talking to you and you had already cut all the gluten you could think of out of your system.
Yeah, and then she was upset because I did, because then she's like, well, we can't test you now because you've been gluten-free for 3 weeks. Yes. And it's like, well, I can't win.
Well, they didn't tell you, don't cut anything out.
No, I did it myself, and then she told me, she says, well, we can't really test for it now because it's not in your system and we can't see for sure. But they did tell me that when they did the scope of my stomach that it was inflamed, and more than likely it was because of that gluten. And
they did say it was one of the worst inflammations they've ever seen.
Yeah, I mean, it was like little white dots all over my stomach on the inside of the lining, which is really bizarre. But now I'm pretty much gluten-free. I try to make sure that I am very careful. Alexander wants to come say hi.
Yeah, the other two had to be put away.
Yeah.
They weren't being good.
So I don't have acid reflux anymore. I don't have sleep apnea. I sleep really good now after cutting out gluten. No reflux anymore. I cut out gluten. and I'm starting to gain weight back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, I mean, the gluten thing, for people that are struggling with all kinds of different symptoms, this has got to be part of that. Almost like a wake-up call, like not only did I take care of this problem, but also this problem, this problem, and this problem. So,
and gluten is in more things than you would expect. I can't believe we found out red vines. So he's like a year without gluten, but he's like, I need something to snack on. So he
like regular red
got one of those big things,
red
and he started losing weight again. So every time
we look at the ingredients, and it said wheat. It's like, really?
Yeah.
In licorice.
Yeah. The other day I was doing a cookie recipe, and I'm like, okay, got everything non-gluten, and then I turn on another recipe, and it says make sure your sprinkles are not gluten. I'm like, great.
You're like, sprinkles? Really?
So the sprinkles. So it's this hidden thing, and it's everywhere. And it's
right when you think that you're doing good, you are gonna end up with gluten, and it's like, that cat's fur, man.
Yeah.
You stumble across something else, like the brown gravy mixes. It all has gluten. Well, now Christa found McCormick brand. It's a brown gravy that's absolutely delicious. They use cornstarch instead of like a gluten-based thickening. It's delicious. It tastes just like the other stuff. So now I'm back eating good gravy. Good gravy.
Okay, well,
anyway.
I have another question. How has all of this, well, you could probably include the closing of the shop, moving, the heart attack, your mom moving up here, all of your health issues, how have they affected our marriage, especially the health issues?
Well, I mean, everybody knows about stress in your marriage. How would it not affect our marriage? But so one thing that Christa and I had to do is when I was on the CPAP machine, she moved to the other bedroom. So that affected our marriage. Having to cook gluten-free, that was more stress on her. So yeah, there's multiple problems that my health was having on us as a couple.
Yeah, I
think
think
you were high stressed because of my health, because you wanted me to stick around for a little while longer.
It was very stressful because I'm not sure what to do if I'm killing you every time I'm cooking.
And it wasn't that, it was the acid reflux was the big one.
Yeah.
And the stomach pain, you would think, oh, it's an ulcer, or it's ulcers, or whatever, or stomach cancer or whatever, and it was the
well,
so
let's
talk
stressful. About, so here we are, we try to help other people in their marriages and all of that kind of stuff, and always end up with a few struggles of our own, which I think that's just normal. And we try to be very open to make sure that everybody knows that they're not alone. And so for 2 years, we actually had to sleep we've been sleeping in separate rooms.
Yeah.
And that has actually probably been the hardest on our marriage.
Yeah, it has.
Because in order for me to get sleep, because he had the CPAP machine, he was, jumping up in the middle of the night.
Yeah,
he was
gasping for air.
Yeah, all the stuff. Neither of us were getting sleep, and that's not healthy. So we thought, okay, well, we'll go in separate rooms. But then you have the added loneliness or the isolation, feeling like you're all alone in the world in these big problems.
Yeah.
So
because you're not sleeping in the same bed, so you can't sit there and talk about things at night because there's nobody to talk to. So
yeah, and then it dangerously became a habit well, good night, I'll watch my TV shows, you watch your TV shows, we'll just so yeah, we thought we'd be just really open and transparent. It's been a healing, a work in progress. I think we're on the right track in about 100 different ways, don't you think?
we are now.
Yeah.
We are now, for sure.
Yeah. So
yeah, this whole gluten thing was a real eye opener. And if any of you know anybody with allergic reactions to gluten or symptoms like acid reflux or sleep apnea or whatever, I'm willing to put money on it that if they take the challenge on to cut out gluten, that their acid reflux probably will go away, possibly.
maybe
And
their sleepless nights.
their sleep problems might go away.
Maybe you won't even need a CPAP machine.
Yeah. I mean, you got to know gluten is not good for us. And it's in everything that everybody else eats. I don't eat it now, but
Well,
everything that everybody else
until I
eats.
accidentally put it in
Yeah.
your food.
Unless she gives me a splash of gluten.
Killing you slowly.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, you don't even need poison, just gluten.
Oh man.
But yeah, it's been a learning curve for us for our marriage.
Mm-hmm.
It's been a learning curve for me on where I can stop and eat. Two things that I haven't given up is Santita's regular chips, corn tortillas.
They don't have gluten.
And we checked on the bag on Doritos, believe it or not. And,
They don't have gluten.
And I've been eating a ton of Doritos. I love Doritos. And I was freaking out that I wasn't going to be able to eat Doritos.
So basically, if you're getting the
good.
gist of it, Jay has a very junk food
I have
oriented,
a limited menu.
a very limited menu. There's the other marriage challenge.
Yeah. Very few fruits or vegetables.
Yeah, so that creates a little bit of a, because you know if you're a wife that you're always trying to get your husband to live longer and eat better, and then they don't listen, and then there's a fight, and then but anyway, we're doing good now. Here we are 2 years, which we thought it was 3 years for some reason. It just felt like 3 years.
Time flies when you're having fun.
When you close a bridal shop, start a new business,
Start a new job.
And
go back to the other old job.
Yeah, that's something we didn't talk about, is that you actually had to quit your job because of your health.
Yeah.
It got so bad.
And then it was actually good that I did, because when I did, then my mom had her heart attack, and then I had to make 5 trips down to California to take care of my mother. Or 4 trips, and then move her here so she could be close to us.
So God has great timing.
Keep an eye on her.
He's like, hey, you're not going to be able to keep that job anyway. But then you have the whole problem. He didn't have health insurance.
Yeah.
We had a lot of it. It's just been a lot.
Well, now it's a lot better.
Yeah.
So
we're actually, like I said, it felt like 3 years. I kept saying 3 years, but it's actually only been 2 years. And that makes me very proud of us, because I go, oh, it's only been 2 years? Wow, we've done a lot in 2 years.
Yeah.
We have done a ton of improving, and it's still, work in progress with trying to learn how to cook gluten-free.
Sure.
But I thought I had been doing it in 3 years, and I actually was only doing it in 2. So I'm pretty proud of us.
I am too.
And
I think it's good. It's really good.
I get to, and I've been kind of every once in a while moving back in your room with you, and you sleep through the night.
Who doesn't want their spouse by their side?
Yeah. So
I know I do.
So we've been taking it slow, but getting used to each other again.
Well, and the other thing is too, I don't have sleep apnea, and I don't have acid reflux anymore. So, that was 2 of the big contenders to deal with as a couple. And now we don't have to worry about that anymore. We're just fighting this whole gluten-free thing.
Yeah. So I would
But
say
it's getting
that's
easier.
the best Christmas present ever.
It is the best Christmas present ever. Heck yeah.
And we get to hang out with you guys all the time when we can get on here. But now you see a little bit behind the scenes of what's been going on in our lives. At the same time, we also started 2 YouTube channels.
Yeah. During that whole course of,
we didn't have enough on our plates.
No. You always want to pile more on.
Anyway, yeah. So we hope you enjoyed us sharing a little window into our lives and our health concerns. We hope that it kind of helped you guys. I hope that maybe you have spotted something in your own life that maybe you can find an answer for. Also, we would love to answer your questions. Often, I'm the one on the page answering questions. However, that's only because we have a lot of the females that will ask the questions, and I respond. And because of our marriage pact, Jay and I have a pact that whenever a female has a question or anything, I answer. And if a male comes on,
I answer.
You answer. However, on this video, because this is really about gluten,
right?
And your journey, if you have any questions for Jay, just address questions to Jay.
Yeah.
And he does read all the comments.
Yeah.
So he will answer you with any questions. Or if you have any advice for us, or great recipes, or
especially chocolate cake recipes, gluten-free. I love chocolate. Chocolate is my weakness, especially dark Hershey's chocolate, special edition.
What would be really good, though, is if I got all you behind me telling him he needs to eat healthier. It could be a whole group of us nagging wives.
If I see any comments about fruits or vegetables, I'm not going to answer them.
But I will. I'll go, woo!
Great. No, but seriously though, if your husband or wife have been struggling with those different types of things, maybe pancreatitis, maybe acid reflux, maybe sleep apnea, seriously take a look at this whole gluten thing. I really was like oblivious to gluten until I had to have my own battle with it. And now I see that it's legit. It's a real problem. It's a real deal. And I got rid of all of it, and now I'm feeling 1,000% better.
Yeah.
You know?
Well,
why?
And I know some of you guys out there have gluten intolerance or celiacs, and you guys might have a different list of symptoms. Maybe each person is a little bit different. I noticed that we ran into a lady at the grocery store. She was so sweet. She heard us talking about trying to find some gluten-free graham crackers, because I was trying to do a crust for cheesecake.
Yeah.
And she says, I'm sorry, I didn't want to listen in, but let me tell you my journey. And she stopped and talked to us for like 20 minutes. She was the most wonderful, told us all the advice. She's been 10 years gluten-free, and she had it so bad that if she even uses flour to cook for her kids, if she doesn't have gloves and fully wash anything that touches her, she breaks out, just not even eating it. She breaks out head to toe.
I could not imagine that. That'd be horrible.
Yeah. So I know there's a lot more symptoms. So if you want to list some of your symptoms or your spouse's symptoms or a friend's symptoms, because I'll bet you there's hundreds of symptoms that go with.
Especially the YouTube community that struggle with gluten. I mean, if you have some insight on what different things you've seen that gluten does to yourself or your spouse that attacks your system that may be a problem for them as well, they would be able to read through the comments and see that maybe that's something they need to watch out for.
Definitely.
Even just being around flour.
Yeah. And if you don't have any of these health problems, but just we're listening in, we want to be an encouragement too that marriages can go through some really hard things.
Oh, yeah.
And there are times when you feel like alone and it's over and you just feel desperate, but just hang on, because here we are just 2 years later and in a totally different place than we were 2 years ago.
Oh yeah.
So just hang on, because it's not forever. The cloud or the storm you're in right now is temporary.
Yeah.
So just
It'll
hang
move
on.
out. It'll move out.
Yeah.
You just got to get a handle on it, and it'll move away.
Yeah. Here we are from Christmas 2020 to now Christmas 2022, a whole different story.
Yeah, it definitely. This is starting to have a good ending.
Yes,
so
it's good.
You know, the whole terror of gluten,
Well, and
all the symptoms
else
that we had to deal with. Me specifically dealing with them, and her having to listen to me deal with them.
I think that anytime a spouse is dealing with something the spouse is also dealing with it.
Yep. For sure.
So,
Come here.
you gonna say goodbye? Come and say goodbye, Alexander.
Come on, bye-bye.
He's not going to. Let's say goodbye.
All right. He won't participate. Anyway, hopefully this helps someone out there. I know it's off topic for a lot of the other things that we did in the summertime, like home improvement stuff and all that stuff. And then back when we first started the channel, a lot of marriage advice, marriage tips, things to help marriages that we did for others. We follow a lot of homesteading channels. I know that's not our niche, but we've grown very fond of those channels and those people that have those channels.
Or gardening channels.
Gardening, yep. All kinds of help channels. So I mean, that's why we wanted to start this for marriages, but we also branched off into the other topics, and
more
so
because of survival. More because it's just, this is what's happening in our lives, so come along.
Yeah, this is the things that we do as a couple.
Yeah.
So I mean, a lot of couples say, well, we don't have anything in common. We just don't know what to do. Well, there's lots of different things you
Ordinary
can do.
stuff.
Yeah.
Sleeping in the same room is a blessing.
That is a blessing.
Anyway,
guys.
We wish you a Merry Christmas.
Yeah, Merry Christmas.
And I know you probably won't have time to fully watch this maybe during this crazy holiday, but maybe you can save it and watch it later, or watch it when the kids have all gone to bed, or you've wrapped all the presents. But, like we said, a strange topic. But here we are this week, coming up to our 2-year anniversary of him finding out 3 days before Christmas. And in our journey.
That's right.
And we're glad to share it with you.
Almost through it.
Yeah.
With the whole gluten thing.
And you're still my favorite.
You're still my favorite.
All right.
All right. We got our favorites.
Merry Christmas, everyone.
See you guys. Jay, Christa, say I do forever.
Love you. Have a great day.
Till the next video.